I love you. Hey, what's up, y'all? It is I, your coach, Melanie Black, and today we're going to be talking about low-fat diets versus gluten-free diets. Which one is better for general health, and which one is better for fat loss, and which one is better for you? Let's find out. We're going to break it all down. We're going to talk about differences, similarities, and how each diet should be used. So first one is pretty easy. If you are gluten intolerant, don't eat the gluten. Do a gluten-free diet. If you're lactose intolerant, don't drink the milk. If you're gluten intolerant, don't eat the gluten. Okay, that is number one. If for both health and weight loss, because if you've got a lot of inflammation and your body's rebelling against you because you're eating things that are not good for it. Yeah, don't do that. So if you're gluten intolerant, this should be a really easy choice if we have to make a choice. But as you probably already guessed, we can do a low-fat, gluten-free diet. So we're going to be talking about the intersection of those two, how to use one versus the other, etc. And why do some people who are not gluten intolerant lose weight on a gluten-free diet? Suspicious. All right, well, let's break it all down. So for gluten-free, the first thing I want you to remember is that there are so many choices on the market right now for gluten-free baked goods, crackers, pastas, muffins, like anything that you can think of. There's so many choices that can make your head spin. There's a lot of gluten-free stuff on the market right now. In fact, one of my absolute favorite bakeries that makes delicious cakes, delicious brownies, delicious cookies, very not conducive to fat loss foods, is a gluten-free bakery. That is their specialty. But they are creating things for people who have an actual sensitivity to this gluten. And even though I don't have the sensitivity, the baked goods are stinking good. So there's lots of availability of different non-diet foods on the market that are in their gluten-free form. When gluten first was vilified in the general consciousness of the United States of America, and people were saying, oh yes, I lost all this weight on a gluten-free diet. This was just before the big wave of gluten-free products hit the market. So this was popularized by a few celebrities and some other people who said, oh yeah, I went gluten-free and I lost all this weight. Well, it's not that gluten was keeping these people fat, although if they were actually gluten intolerant, then yeah, that can have some impact on that. But the thing that they were doing is they were suddenly not eating a lot of the very calorie-rich foods that they were previously associating with gluten. All of a sudden, instead of eating calorie-dense breads and pastas and all of the associated fats that we put on those, now they're eating more fruits, more vegetables, getting their carbohydrates from more whole food sources. And when you do that, you will naturally reduce your caloric density, reduce your caloric intake, and thus lose weight. But you can and absolutely will gain weight on a gluten-free diet if you are getting enough calories in to do so. So for weight loss, I would give the gluten-free diet a meh, not so much. If you are actively trying to avoid gluten for health reasons because you are gluten intolerant, please by all means do this for your general health, for your guts, for the love of your body. Please go gluten-free if this describes you. But if you are simply looking for weight loss via removing one simple thing, what's that one weird trick? This ain't it. Sorry to burst your bubble on that one. But let's talk about the next one on our list, which is low-fat diets. Now, we never want to go fat-free, but low-fat. Now, here again, we've got a huge, mind-blowing number of low-fat products on the market. In the 80s, low-fat was all the rage. Low-fat, no-fat cookies. Man, I remember like freaking Snackwell's cookies being all the rage when I was growing up. They were just all sugar. And here's the thing, like candy, cotton candy, soda, guess what? They're fat-free and they're gluten-free. Okay, so you can absolutely have junk food. You can absolutely have high caloric density on either a low fat or a low gluten diet. But there are some important lessons that we can take away from people who tend to lose weight when they start thinking in terms of lowering their fat and or lowering their gluten or their carbohydrates in general. In general, when they do this, they're disrupting their normal eating patterns, which may very well be a lot of convenience foods, packaged foods that have a high caloric density, and swapping those out for more unprocessed whole food, which is going to have a lower caloric density. Now, when we're talking low fat, I'm a sports nutritionist. You gotta give me numbers, right? Because low fat compared to what? Low compared to what? Okay? So this is super important to me. So we're gonna talk about what the recommended amount of fat is for dietary intake, and we will take it from there, whether or not what you think is low fat is actually low fat or maybe not. Okay. So low fat. The 2015 to 2020 dietary guidelines for Americans recommended the following targets for healthy adults. We are looking at a total of 20 to 35% of daily calories from fat. And this is how I structure most of my meal plans, is by percentage of calories. Now, of course, remember, your calories will vary, okay? If you need a custom diet plan, then go ahead and join www.thenerdgym.com. All the membership levels include access to our nutrition plans, so we can take care of you. But if you already know how many calories you should be getting for your goals, then we can move on to figuring out how many of those calories should I be getting from fat. So that's back to our slide here. So for example, on a 2,000 calorie diet, if we're going to get 20% of our total daily calories in from fat, that equals 400 calories from fat, which sounds like a goodly amount until we realize that fat is the most calorically dense macronutrient. You see, carbohydrates have 4 calories per gram, protein has 4 calories per gram, alcohol 7 calories per gram, and fat has 9 calories per gram. So there's a lot of bang for your buck in there. So we have to take that 400 calories and then divide by 9 to get our targets here. So if we're going to get 20% of our daily intake from fat, that means 400 calories divided by 9, that's 44 grams of fat. So what does that mean in practical foodstuffs? Well, for one day, 1.5 large avocados would get the job done, provided you had absolutely zero fat and everything else, right? So would a grand total throughout your day of 3 tablespoons of olive oil, or any oil for that matter. 3 ounces of cheese, most cheeses-ish, about 3 ounces will get you that 44 grams. 3 ounces of nuts also will get you about 44 grams. Also, 1 fast food Whopper would get you about 44 grams. Now keep in mind, this is if you have no other fats during your day. So what do you think? Do you think that is low fat? Is that a lot lower than what you've been getting? If so, then yeah, you could consider the average recommendations for American adults to be quite a bit lower than what the average American is actually getting, right? Now, of course, that's the bottom end of the range. We do have a little wiggle room upwards from there, but honestly, there are fats integrated into like almost all of our proteins, right? So there's hidden fats and other things. So this is like if you're not using any cooking oil, if you're not doing anything else and you wanted to get all your base covered, your 20% covered from fats, those are examples of how you could get that done. So yeah, if that's low for you, then that would be considered a low-fat diet. You don't want to go any lower than that, though. Going lower than that puts a lot of things at risk because you need fat to absorb certain vitamins and minerals. You need fat to have healthy organ and tissue function. So fats play an important role in the body. You do not want to go below 20% of your total caloric intake in fats, but fats are easy to go over on. They're really easy to go over on. So if your goal is weight loss, what should we really be thinking about? If we're trying to lose body fat, what are we really thinking about? It's not what you say no to, it's about what you say yes to, right? So it's not so much about saying no to gluten or no to fats, it's about saying yes to more low caloric density, high fiber foods. Things that are minimally processed in general are going to give you a lower caloric density. Now, is it totally possible to actually gain fat on eating too many whole foods? Yes, of course it is. But in general, if we make vegetables the star of the show, and lean proteins and high fiber lentils, legumes, that kind of thing, we're generally not going to gain weight as easily as if we're having a lot of processed foods. So as far as what's better, low fat or gluten-free for fat loss? Well, yeah, you want to pay attention to the fat. You want to make sure you're getting enough, but not going too crazy with it, because that 9 calories per gram adds up fast. We can easily add an extra 400, 800, 1,200 calories to our diet by just having a little bit of extra cheese, extra guac on that burrito, whatever it is. Those things add up really, really fast. So paying attention to your macronutrients and how much fat you're eating is definitely a more reliable way to make sure that your caloric values don't go through the roof than paying attention to whether or not something has gluten in it. So I hope you found this interesting or helpful, or if you didn't, go ahead and let me know by giving me the thumbs up or the thumbs down below, and shoot me a question by hopping in those comments. Again, if you're not yet a member of the Nerd Gym, www.thenerdgym.com, and I will look forward to seeing you on the next one. Bye!